When tech titan Julian Hayes walked into his sister's wedding with a quietly dressed black woman on his arm, the groom sneered and called her boss mockingly. What happened next shattered the entire reception. By midnight, 3 lives were destroyed, 1 career was born, and a $400 million secret was revealed. The summer sun hung low over the Hamptons estate, casting golden light across manicured lawns that stretched toward the ocean. It was the kind of wedding that appeared in magazines: white silk draping every surface, crystal chandeliers suspended from a massive tent, and guests dripping in diamonds and designer labels. Christine Hayes, radiant in her custom Vera Wang gown, was marrying Bradford Montgomery III, a man whose last name alone opened doors across Manhattan's financial district. It should have been perfect. Julian Hayes arrived fashionably late, which surprised no one who knew him. The 34-year-old tech billionaire had built NeuralSync AI from a college dorm room into a company worth billions, and he operated on his own schedule. What did surprise people was his date. While other guests arrived with trophy wives and Instagram models, Julian walked in with a woman who seemed to blend into the background. She was a black woman in her early 40s, wearing a simple black dress with no designer label visible, no jewelry except small silver earrings, her natural hair pulled back in an elegant but understated style. She had warm eyes and a gentle smile, the kind of person who looked like she'd be more comfortable in a library than at a society. Wedding Bradford Montgomery III noticed her immediately. He was holding court near the bar with his groomsmen, all men cut from the same cloth: old money, older attitudes, and the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. He nudged his best man, Carter, and gestured toward Julian and his date with his champagne glass. "Did Julian seriously bring the help to my wedding?" he said, not bothering to lower his voice. How wonderfully progressive of him. Carter snickered, his eyes raking over the woman with barely concealed disdain. Maybe she's part of the catering staff. "Hey, sweetheart," he called out, making a show of waving his empty glass. "You think you could grab me another bottle of Dom? We're running low over here." The woman turned toward them, her smile never faltering, but Julian's jaw tightened visibly. Before he could respond, Bradford was already walking over, that signature smirk plastered across his face. Wait, don't tell me," he said, circling around them like a predator. "Let me guess. You're his, what exactly? Charity case? Some kind of community outreach project? I know Julian's big on that whole giving back thing." The woman placed a gentle hand on Julian's arm, which had tensed into a fist. "It's fine," she said quietly, her voice carrying a calm that seemed almost out of place given the circumstances. Bradford's eyes lit up with false recognition. "Oh, I get it now." He snapped his fingers, grinning at his groomsmen. "You're the boss, right?" He made exaggerated air quotes, and his friends erupted in laughter. Several nearby guests turned to stare, some looking uncomfortable, others merely curious about the commotion. Jules brought his boss to the wedding. "That's rich. That's actually perfect." Christine appeared then, her face flushed with champagne and embarrassment. "Bradford, honey, can I talk to you for a second?" she whispered urgently, trying to pull him away, but he waved her off. "It's fine, babe. Just having a little fun with my new brother-in-law and his interesting choice of date." He winked at the woman. "No offense, sweetheart. I'm sure you're very accomplished." The woman, Donna Campbell, though no one had bothered to ask her name, simply nodded. "None taken," she said evenly. Julian looked like he wanted to throw Bradford through the nearest window, but Donna's grip on his arm tightened just slightly, a silent request to let it go. For now. The cocktail hour was worse. Bradford's mother, Constance Montgomery, was a woman whose pearls probably had their own trust fund, and she carried herself with the kind of authority that came from generations of inherited wealth. She approached Donna while Julian was being dragged away by his father for photographs, her smile as artificial as the flowers adorning each table. "Excuse me, dear," Constance said, her voice syrupy sweet. "I hate to impose, but our bathroom attendant called in sick at the last minute. Would you terribly mind filling in? I'd make it worth your while. Say $200 for the evening." She pulled out her checkbook as if the matter was already settled. Donna looked at her for a long moment and something flickered in her eyes. Not anger, not hurt, but something sadder. Recognition, perhaps, of how little had truly changed in the world. "I'm actually a guest at the wedding, Mrs. Montgomery," she said politely, "but I'm sure your event coordinator can find someone to help." Constance's smile froze, then cracked. Oh, of course. How modern." She tucked her checkbook away and walked off without another word, but Donna could hear her whisper to another woman, just loud enough to be heard. "Can you believe Julian brought that to Christine's wedding? What is he thinking?" Dinner brought fresh humiliation. The seating chart had been arranged by Bradford, and when Julian found their table assignments, he went pale. He was seated at table 1 with immediate family. Donna was at table 14, the vendor table, tucked near the back exit, where the photographer and DJ ate between sets. "This is ridiculous," Julian said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Christine, you can't be serious." His sister looked genuinely distressed, wringing her hands. "Bradford handled the seating arrangements. I didn't realize." "Didn't realize what?" Julian's voice was rising now, drawing attention. "That you were letting your fiancé treat my guest like garbage?" Bradford appeared, inserting himself between Julian and Christine with practiced ease. "Jules, relax. I put your friend where she'd be comfortable. Didn't want her feeling awkward or out of place with, our crowd." He gestured broadly at the room full of society's elite. "No offense intended, just trying to make everyone comfortable." Donna stood before Julian could explode. Her face was composed, but there was something steely in her eyes now, something that hadn't been there before. "Julian, I'll just sit there. It's not worth ruining Christine's wedding day." She picked up her place card and walked toward table 14, her head high, while Bradford watched with satisfied amusement. "See?" Bradford said, loud enough for half the room to hear. "She knows her place. That's what I appreciate about people like her. They're practical." The dinner passed in agonizing tension. Julian barely touched his food, spending most of the meal glaring at Bradford, who seemed to grow more animated and obnoxious with each glass of wine. When the time came for toasts, Bradford stood with his champagne glass raised, his cheeks flushed, his smile wide and dangerous. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he began, and the room settled into polite attention. "Especially my new brother-in-law, Julian Hayes. Jules, buddy, you're living proof that even tech geniuses have blind spots." He paused for laughter, which came from his side of the room. The man brought his boss to the wedding. More laughter, louder now. Christine looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Bradford wasn't finished. He was enjoying himself too much, riding the wave of attention. "But seriously, Jules, next family event? Maybe leave the diversity hire at home, huh? We get it. You're very progressive, very 21st century, but some things are just—" He made a vague gesture, as if the rest of the sentence was self-explanatory. The room went silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the awful silence of collective shock. Several guests gasped audibly. Christine's face went from red to white, but before Julian could stand, and he was already rising from his chair, his face a mask of fury, Donna stood first. She walked to the front of the room with measured, deliberate steps. She didn't rush, didn't storm, didn't show any of the emotion that must have been churning inside her. She simply placed her hand on Bradford's shoulder, gently taking the microphone from his hand. He was too surprised to resist. "Bradford," she said, her voice calm and clear, carrying easily across the silent tent. "You've called me boss 3 times tonight. You're more right than you know." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then held it up so the large display screen behind her, meant for showing the couple's photo montage, could mirror her screen. A document appeared, official and detailed. "My name is Dr. Donna Campbell," she began, and something in her tone had shifted. The gentleness was still there, but underneath it was steel. "I hold a PhD in artificial intelligence from Stanford University and an MBA from Wharton School of Business. For the past 6 years, I've served as the Chief Technology Officer of NeuralSync AI. The room erupted in whispers. Bradford's face began to drain of color. Donna wasn't finished. I've built the neural algorithms and machine learning architecture behind the technology that powers Julian's company. The same technology, coincidentally, that your investment bank licenses from us. Montgomery and Associates uses our AI for high-frequency trading, risk assessment, and portfolio optimization. That technology earned your firm approximately $340 million last quarter alone. She swiped to another document, and a board roster appeared on screen, complete with photos and titles. Her picture was third from the top. But more importantly, Bradford, I'm the lead voting member of NeuralSync's board of directors. I hold the deciding vote on all major company decisions, including mergers, acquisitions, and strategic partnerships. Julian stood then, walking to join her at the front of the room. His face was unreadable, but there was something fierce in his eyes. Our company was approached 3 weeks ago about a potential partnership and merger, he said, his voice carrying that particular quality of controlled anger that's more frightening than shouting. Donna, why don't you tell everyone which firm approached us? Donna's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Not satisfaction exactly, but a kind of weary justice. Montgomery and Associates, Bradford's family firm. The proposed deal was valued at $2.3 billion. It would have tripled your firm's AI capabilities and positioned you as the dominant player in algorithmic trading. The word would have hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Bradford seemed to finally understand what was happening. Wait, he said, his voice cracking slightly. Wait, you can't be. As of about 5 minutes ago, Julian said, pulling out his own phone and showing a sent email timestamped at 8:47 p.m. I texted our CFO and general counsel, the deal's dead, we're walking away from negotiations. Bradford's father, Gregory Montgomery, materialized from the crowd like a shark smelling blood. He was a silver-haired man in his 60s with the kind of face that had spent decades closing deals and crushing competitors. You can't be serious, he said, his voice sharp. That's business, not personal. You can't kill $1 billion deal over a social misunderstanding. Donna turned to face him directly, and for the first time all evening her composure cracked just slightly, not into anger but into something sadder and deeper. You're absolutely right, Mr. Montgomery. It is business. So is this. Every major tech firm in Manhattan will know by Monday morning exactly how your son and your family treated me. Tonight I sit on 4 corporate boards. I advise 6 venture capital firms. I speak at 3 major technology conferences annually. I mentor 47 engineers across the industry, most of them women of color who are watching my career very carefully to see what's possible for them. She paused, letting that sink in. Your son didn't just insult me, Mr. Montgomery. He insulted every black professional in tech who's ever been underestimated, every woman who's been dismissed, every brilliant person who's been judged by their appearance instead of their accomplishments. And I won't let that slide, not anymore. She turned to Christine, whose face was streaked with tears, mascara running in dark rivers. Christine, I'm genuinely sorry this happened at your wedding. You deserve better than this, but respect isn't about who has money or what family you come from. It's about character, and your fiancé has shown us exactly what his character is. Christine let out a sob and ran from the tent. Bradford started to follow, but his father grabbed his arm, hissing something furious and unintelligible. The guests sat frozen, some with their phones out, undoubtedly already texting the story to everyone they knew. By morning, it would be everywhere. Julian stepped forward then, and his voice softened, speaking not to Bradford or his family, but to the room at large. 6 years ago, Donna was a single mother working 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, tutoring during the day, and doing data entry on weekends. She was putting herself through night school, studying computer science and mathematics, sleeping 4 hours a night because that's all the time she had between work and classes and taking care of her 2 kids. He pulled up a photo on his phone and displayed it on the big screen. A younger Donna, exhausted but smiling, holding a research paper at what looked like a small academic conference. She submitted a research paper to a tech conference I was attending. It was about neural network optimization, technical stuff that most people wouldn't understand. But I read it, and I realized I was looking at the most revolutionary AI framework I'd ever seen, so I tracked her down. Donna was watching Julian now, and there was something soft in her expression, a memory of a different time. "He offered me a job," she said quietly. "I told him I had 2 kids under 10 and I hadn't finished my degree yet. I thought that would be the end of it." "I told her," Julian continued, and his voice was thick with emotion now, "that I had a company with no one as smart as her. I said, 'Finish your degree on our dime with a full salary. Start when you're ready. Bring your kids to the office if you need to. Just please, please come build something amazing.'" He looked directly at Bradford. "Donna didn't just build my company. She built the entire infrastructure from the ground up. Every algorithm, every neural network, every line of code that makes NeuralSync what it is today. That's her Forbes called her the hidden genius of tech last year. She's the most respected black woman in Silicon Valley, and she's mentored dozens of young engineers who are changing the industry." Julian's voice dropped, becoming almost intimate despite the crowd. "But more than that, Donna saved my life. 3 years ago, when the company almost collapsed, when we lost our biggest investor and I thought everything was over, I went to the office roof planning to jump. Donna found me there. She sat with me for 6 hours, talked me through it, called my therapist, stayed at my apartment for 3 days to make sure I didn't do anything stupid." His voice cracked. "She's not my employee. She's not my charity case or my diversity hire. She's family. She's the reason I'm standing here today." The silence in the tent was absolute. Christine had returned, standing at the back, crying quietly. She walked forward suddenly, moving past Bradford without looking at him, and wrapped her arms around Donna. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I should have defended you. I should have stood up to him. I'm so sorry." Donna hugged her back, and for the first time all evening she let her own composure slip. Tears slid down her cheeks as she held Christine. "You deserve someone who treats people with kindness," she whispered. "Everyone does." Bradford stood alone, his groomsman having quietly melted away, his face pale and shocked. His father was already on his phone, no doubt trying to salvage the business deal, but the damage was done. By the next morning, the story had spread across social media, tech blogs, and even mainstream news. The hashtag Respect Donna was trending. A video someone had secretly recorded went viral, viewed 18 million times in 3 days. Within a week, Bradford was quietly removed from Montgomery and Associates, his father citing a need for new direction. The firm's other clients, spooked by the negative publicity and aware that they too relied on relationships with tech companies, began asking questions. 3 major accounts left within a month. The company would survive, but diminished, embarrassed, forever marked by one man's cruelty. Christine annulled the marriage before the honeymoon, citing irreconcilable differences. In reality, she told her friends, she'd finally seen who Bradford really was and she couldn't unsee it. 6 months later, Donna stood on a stage at the biggest tech conference in the country. She wore a vibrant blue suit that commanded attention, her natural hair styled in elegant locks, her presence undeniable. She announced a $50 million scholarship fund for underprivileged women pursuing STEM degrees. "This fund is for every person who's been underestimated," she said to the crowd of thousands. "For every girl told she's not smart enough, every woman dismissed because of her race or gender, every brilliant mind that almost gave up because the world couldn't see their value. Your potential is there. It always was. Don't let anyone make you invisible." In the audience, Christine sat beside Julian, both of them on their feet. Applauding, Christine had started working at a nonprofit focused on educational equity, finding purpose she'd never had in her previous life, of charity galas and society luncheons. She and Donna had become genuinely close, talking weekly, working together on several initiatives. The final shot showed Donna in a small classroom surrounded by a dozen young girls of all races, teaching them to code. A young black girl, no more than 10, raised her hand. Dr. Campbell, what if people don't believe we can do it? Donna smiled, that same warm smile she'd worn even in the face of Bradford's cruelty. Then you do it anyway, she said. And you do it so well that they have no choice but to believe. Not for them, for you. Bradford Montgomery tried to put Donna in her place. What he didn't realize, her place was always at the top. The next time you judge someone by their appearance, their race, or their silence, remember, you might be dismissing the very person who holds your future in their hands. Respect costs nothing. Arrogance costs everything. Never mistake someone's humility for weakness, their kindness for ignorance, or their silence for powerlessness. The person you underestimate today might be the one signing your paycheck or ending your career tomorrow.